Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another round of GPVWC Sim Racing. My name is Matthew Chuggy Churgwin, and joining me in the commentary box this evening for round 5 of the GPVWC Atlantic Series is Mr. Thomas Jacobs. Say good evening, sir.
Hello, everyone.
And joining us on cameras is Mr. Cameron Brewster, and it is our pleasure this evening to bring you the GPVWC Atlantic Series and the Lexington Grand Prix from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Yes, welcome to Ohio, nestled in the stunning Morrow County. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course will host our 5th round of the first GPVWC Atlantic Series, and this little 2.4-mile roller coaster of a course will prove a real challenge for our field of drivers. With both high and low speed sections and plenty of undulation for good measure, it's going to be a true test of car and driver. And as we are just entering the Fast 6 phase of our qualifying session here, we have seen plenty of drama already in this early qualifying session, Tom.
Yes, indeed. With Lars Brugman on provisional pole at the moment with a 1:03.1. I think it's the fastest time we've seen so far on the server, also in the listings, with Daniel Brewer. I believe he's new? I think he's new. Yes, with a 1:03.3, 2 tenths behind, and of course this Fast 6 gives them 5 to 6 minutes to increase their times and see who will get pole position.
Absolutely. Traffic management was a factor. We've got 25 car grid this evening, and over 2.4 miles. That does not give you much breathing room. So here we go. Fastest 6 drivers on this day in history. They have the course to themselves, and we will have to see who's able to make the most of all that spare track air breathing room. So this track, it's a real gem. It's one of my favourites. Plenty of testing corners, fast corners, slow corners, and a stunning little second sector with corner after corner after corner. So just keeping an eye here on Brewer. He just locked up big time on the rear axle down into turn 2. Turn 2, very important corner, probably the most important corner on the course, because you have this huge, long drag down towards turn 4 and a very tricky braking zone there as well. Probably our prime overtaking opportunity. But this course, Tom, it has... in particular the second sector, a left followed by a right, followed by a left, followed by a right, which to the uninitiated might just sound like a series of corners. However, it gives our drivers opportunities to race side by side, wheel to wheel, and that's something we've not had so far this year in the Atlantic Series, and well, I'm sure it will give us a good wheel to wheel race.
I hope so too. I mean, what we do like is a really good race. We really want people to fight each other and see who's ballsier, to say, on certain maneuvers. But you must also remember it may be like a right-hander, left-hander, right-left section, but it also goes up and down. And if you're at the wrong if you're on the outside of that, it could mean that you're spinning up the wheels, and it could also cause incidents.
Absolutely, and absolutely, the traction factor, let's call it, is a key part of these cars. If you can get the car out of the corner well, irrespective of course, you're going to have a good car to drive. So much power available, of course, from these engines. And this corner in particular, I think, is going to be a real test of that. No improvement so far or changes to the order in the Fast 6. We are 3 minutes down, 3 minutes to go. Drivers just popping into the pit lane, getting a fresh set of tyres, getting the car topped up with fuel. Really running on fumes here as we are coming towards the final few moments here of the Fast 6. What I'd like to do, if we can, Tom, is just ride on board of a driver and have you talk us through the lap. And by the looks of it, I think Scott Beresford may be the first driver who will be starting their new lap. So if we can, ride on board of him. Currently P5 as he enters start-finish straight.
So we're coming into turn 1 now. Bit speculation of whether you can take it flat or not. Beresford will lift. I think he stayed in 4th gear there. But you have to be careful not to take it too tight, otherwise your lap will be discounted, and not to run too wide because you've gone to the grass. Turn 2, it's got a bit of a bump on the inside there, and Beresford just goes a little bit wide. The rear just wanted to step out, but now you've got this long straight with a little bit of a kink on the right-hand side coming up now. And now you've got a spot for your braking zone. I think you're reaching almost 300 kilometers an hour as you start braking down into 2nd gear, right-hander, and then you've got to kind of prepare for yourself for the uphill left, which is almost 180-degree corner into the flowing section, which, as you said earlier, was a right, then a left, then a right. But it's also uphill and downhill. Then we're into the turn 9, which is a bit of a tricky for acceleration as the traction is limited. through the Thunder Valley into turn 11, and then into the carousel, turns 12, and the final. I think he wants to go into the pits. Unfortunately, I won't see the rest of this lap, but with a minute left, he might be able to get himself out there and get one more flying lap in.
He does have just enough time if he gets that car turned around. A lap time here around the 1 minute 3 mark, and he's got 1 minute 10 seconds to go. And by the looks of it, he's not making a move. So perhaps he's got the most out of the car, and he has improved his time actually.
Sorry, Rude Easterbeek's just spun at turn 9, which I said was very tricky to get the power down. I think that's his qualifying over.
Indeed, he's put that one back in the pit lane, so that's the end of him. And turn 9, completely blind on the way in. Do not quite know where the car will be until you, get past the apex and you can see the road ahead of you. So unfortunately, a little mistake there from Rude. He is in P4 though, as it stands. Other drivers on track. We have Ewald Nell, currently in P6 for YTF1. He is just making his way down the long straight here, through the kink of turn 3, down towards turn 4. Solid enough so far. A little bit of a tyre squeal there from his outside tyre as he was turning through that very, very tricky right-hander. It goes on longer than you expect. You want to get on the power early, you do though. And you can have a car stepping out. We saw a few drivers falling foul of that, spinning themselves out. He gets through turn 9 just about, riding the curb. That certainly won't have been comfortable, but he's handled that one nicely. Comes through turn 11, down into 12. He's on the brakes nice and late. Got a nice line, he's got it tucked in for that very late apex. Gets the power on through 13, and across the start-finish line he goes. He does not improve, he stays P6. Our only driver now on the track, otherwise, is Brzezinski. He is P3, and by the looks of it, he's cruising this one home. So, unless I'm very much mistaken, I believe we have our top 6 confirmed. Tom, talk us through the grid.
Well, first we have Lars Brugman coming off a great win at Vegas, over a month ago now. In second place we have Daniel Brewer, new to the series, I believe. Third, Brzezinski, I believe he's also new. I'm not quite sure. Fourth, Ruud Easterbeek. Fifth, Scott Beresford. Sixth, DeWald Nell. Do you want me to keep going through the rest of the grid?
Yeah, let's do the top 10 quickly.
Okay. Seventh, Sven de Vries. Eighth, Nico Barclay. Ninth, Pedro Gomez. And 10th, Danny Asbury.
We will run through, of course, the full grid on our formation lap. It's a short lap. It will be a rolling start as well, as the Atlantic Series starts have been. But we'll have a quick run through all 25 drivers for this evening's race when we get there. It is a 45-lap race, half IndyCar distance. And we're expecting at least one pit stop from our drivers, fuel being the more of the limiting factor, as we have seen many times. And as Tom just mentioned, Lars Brugman, superb result for him last time out, over a month ago, at the Las Vegas Grand Prix from Fremont Street. A race that, Tom, you and I happened to be taking part in. And certainly, I'm not sure about you, but it gave me a great appreciation of how tricky these cars are to drive and how to get a good lap time out of them.
Indeed, and these cars are very tricky to drive in the lower gears. And of course, round Vegas, it was all the lower gears. I mean, having to go down to first and second pretty much every single corner.
Absolutely, of course. It being a street circuit as well, walls everywhere, any mistake, and you were immediately penalised. Not so many walls around here, but still, the track will definitely eat you up if you make a mistake.
Definitely. I mean, one thing we have seen all season is actually staying on track and actually finishing the race. The first round at Barbers, we definitely saw that with almost half the field actually DNFing due to one set of corners on the track. But here, I don't think there'll be so much retirements, but there's, with the undulation and the tight corners along with barriers quite close into the track, then I think, we'll definitely have a few, but not as many as we've seen before.
Indeed. So it's set up nicely, as these races always are. Not quite an endurance race or an endurance event, not quite a sprint. I think it's going to be an interesting melting pot of strategy and approach. And although overtaking opportunities are limited, I think probably your only good opportunity will be down into 4, given the long straight you have just before it. I think we are going to be seeing plenty of action from our field of cars and drivers. And if there's anything you particularly want to chime in on, feel free to do so. We are, of course, on social media. We are at GPVWC Live on Twitter. Use that. And/or hashtag GPVWC, and we'll more than happily discuss any points you'd like us to talk through or read out your comments. I'd love to have a bit of interaction, and already we've had a bit of interaction from Alexander van der Wild, who's actually on the field this evening. P15 for him, and he is driving for, who's he driving for this evening? I believe that's Small Power Racing, so good stuff here from Alexander, and he's already been, as a driver, getting in on the Twitter act, so multitasking as well, so good stuff. Our drivers now in 8 minutes of warm-up, of course getting used to any Formula car with full fuel, having just taken all of it out for qualifying is a bit of a challenge. And of course these Indy cars as well have been updated. They were updated from the last round for Fremont Street for Las Vegas. One of the key changes there is a slight tweak to the tyres. We did have a previous restriction that whatever tyre you qualified on, you were restricted to. No more is the case there, but also it's employing some new R-Factor tyre modelling called CPM, Contact Patch Model, which hasn't changed the cars drastically, but requires a different approach to setting up the car.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it will mostly affect cambers and pressures, I would assume. I'm not that familiar with how CPM works, but yeah, I've heard a lot of people complaining about how different the cars are now after just, you know, that smallish fix. But, you know, it livens it up because it means that some people that were fast are now slow, and maybe there's some people that were slow are now fast. It changes the whole kind of balance of the car, and it might suit some more than others.
Indeed so, and of course everyone driving the same car, they will of course all have to deal with the same changes. So the beautiful factor of a single make series or a single Formula series, we will truly see who can get on top of these machines in their previous or current form, and who can get the most out of them, especially over this 45 lap distance. We will have a rolling start, so we will see 46 laps on the counter, but there will be 45 racing laps, and we shall wait and see. I think traditionally here at Mid-Ohio they normally release cars for safety reasons down at turn 3, but we will see if we start at the start-finish line or turn 3. We will wait and see.
Well, I think it's going to be the normal start-finish line, just to kind of keep with the whole having an extra lap. I don't think people would want to do 45.5 or even 45 and... Yeah, 45.5. Yep. No, 45.5 and a 44.5. Sorry, I got that completely wrong. My maths does not work today. But yeah, that means that turn 1 is going to be awfully tricky. Well, no, they do it single file, so it should be all right, as long as, you know, they kind of get a start relative to the people behind them, then it should be single file through turn 1, hopefully, fingers crossed.
We shall see. It's a cheeky move up into turn 1 on the first lap. I think will be a bit of a push, and certainly will require some very compliant driving, so we'll of course have to hope that everyone is nice and sensible. Of course, in order to finish first you have to finish. No point trying to do something a little leery in the early phases. Anyway, we are round 5. We're over the halfway point now of the first Atlantic series, and the drivers and constructors situations is particularly tasty. And I believe, Tom, that you've got the latest standings for it.
I have the top 3 for the standings, yes, from both the teams and the drivers. So first we'll start off with drivers. In first position with 150 points is Lars Brugman. 25 points behind him is Ruud Heesterbeek in second, with 13 points back to Pedro Gomez in third. As for the teams, Proline are leading with 200 points to Walks 184 in second, and Drake Racing 165 in third.
So all very close, very tasty. So constructors and drivers, there's no real runaway success so far, and of course very large points tallies given out in these races. If you are a leading protagonist at this point and you, for whatever reason, don't get a point score, that could seriously set you back. So I think, given the stakes, a little bit of long game championship thinking may be coming into play. We'll have to, of course, wait and see how the drivers react to the situations around them. But we are getting to that point in the season where the championship mindset will start to come in, and we'll have to see who's thinking big picture and who's thinking of this race win. So with 4 minutes to go in warm-up, drivers again just getting used to the car, getting the rubber in, getting the rubber down in R-Factor 2, making sure they've got as much to play with in the race. Interestingly, the top 6 are broadly the same drivers that we're seeing qualifying, so clearly the car's working on heavy and light fuel, which is a good indicator. that the cars are well set up, of course, and they are going to be nice and racy. And as we mentioned earlier, Tom, we were taking part in the race last year. What perhaps those who are watching, perhaps IndyCar racing or the Atlantic Series for the first time, what would you say are the big things to keep an eye out for as a spectator watching these cars as they drive around the track?
Oh, as a spectator, what to keep out for any kind of close battles, because it could go either way. It could go very cleanly and some great manoeuvres, or it could go disastrously wrong, especially into, as we mentioned before, turn one. If one car goes wide there and it's a whole train behind, then they come back on track. It's just going to be absolute carnage. So great for the spectators to watch that, but not so for the drivers.
Yep, I would agree there. And I think one aspect of, this is just a fact of Mid-Ohio, particularly this first sector, very, very fast. And I think the closing speeds and there's the speed that cars are able to take through some of the corners are going to be something to keep an eye on. Some cars will be mighty quick, some will not. And drivers have got to be careful. They don't want to be losing their front or rear wings. These cars are very reliant on the downforce that they generate to get themselves around the track. And if you do lose one of those aerodynamic pieces, you can find yourself in a whole heap of trouble very, very quickly indeed. So keep an eye, some of the mid-speed corners as well. Good opportunity to, if you're quick, get a quick little overtake in. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a case of keep your nose clean, literally including keeping your front wing on. And I think just taking the opportunity when you can. So.
Sorry, I've just seen Parker go around the outside of a clont round turn one with minimal contact. Why did you not do that in the race or when the race is coming up? Wait until cameras are on you. But one thing I would say to kind of keep an eye out for is who's good on their tyres. Because you mentioned in qualifying, I think before we went live, always Parker spins, that a lot of people have been using the tyres very aggressively around the track, and of course we've found out that locking up can damage the tyres a lot. I mean, I've locked up in R Factor 2 and I took away 10% of the tyre just through one lockup, and that also pretty much ruined the rest of my race. But it'd be interesting to see who's kind of got a bit of a weak brake pressure and who's gone more aggressive and is just chucking the car into the corners and just using all the tyres that are available.
Indeed, tyre management, a big factor of R Factor 2. Your actual driving style comes into play as well. A nice, just dynamic aspect of R Factor 2. Of course, R Factor, very beloved here at GPVWC. R Factor 2 brings a whole new dimension to the racing. And as you say, I think tyre management will be a big factor here. A couple corners, very quick, long time in the corner, as it were, good few seconds. Plenty of opportunity for you to overuse that tyre, and that could leave you vulnerable. So we'll have to wait and see who has got that aspect of the setup dialed in, and who may have to perhaps contemplate stops for extra sets of tyres. So we shall wait and see on that one. There is plenty of opportunity, though, I'd say, with strategy. Of course, this being a tricky track to overtake on, the undercut could be a very real possibility tonight. Fresh set of tyres, getting a good lap time in on your out lap or on your in lap, and you'll be able, I'm sure, to make up a few places once the pit cycle works its way through. So I have to keep an eye on if anyone's going to try that one.
Definitely.
Please.
I was going to say that also stopping early means you take on less fuel, I think taking on less fuel. So you also spend less time in the pits, which means you could also get that extra jump.
You could indeed. So I think strategy is going to be a big factor of this evening's race. We'll have to wait and see if we're correct or not. Warm-up is now completing. The grid is now being formed. In these final few moments, Tom, anyone you'd suggest keeping an eye on as the race progresses?
I'd say I think Brugman's just going to kind of not run away with it, but I think he's going to be fighting with, or he's going to have quite a healthy gap between first and second. I'm going to say Brugman for the win, but I'd say Daniel Brewer and who's the other one? Brzezinski. They're new to the series and they've qualified really well. I reckon they can be, great challengers for this race coming up.
Absolutely, I'd say keep definitely an eye on Brewer and Brzezinski. They seem to have the pace, and I don't think Brugman's going to have it all his own way. I think he's going to be pushed and harried right to the very end. As we saw last time out, Brugman can definitely deal with that and bring home the result. I think we're going to have a very tasty clash here for the top three. Otherwise, I'd say keep an eye out for the midfield. We've got plenty of quick drivers and plenty of feisty moves by the sounds of it, even done in warm-up. So here we go. I believe we're just about to be moved into our race session here for this evening. 145 lap race here of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. As we just have our final driver, I think, returning to the pit lane. Just running through the final couple of corners. We'll be moving on to our grid here for the Lexington Grand Prix.
Yeah, you mentioned about keeping an eye on the midfielders. Scott Beresford starting 5th, I believe. He hasn't been up that high since the first round. Well, I believe he got him and his teammate 4th and 6th, I'd like to say, in the first round at Barbers.
Yes, that's right. Beresford for TSA. It's the first time a TSA car has been able to get itself up into the Fast 6. So good stuff for the TSA team there. So we'll have to see if he's able to convert that into a good point score. So, as our drivers are now taking their positions on the grid, we're just waiting for everyone to get out there. A couple of seconds here remaining. As everyone's now on the grid, let's quickly run through our grid here for the Lexington Grand Prix, round 5 of the GPVWC Atlantic Series. Tom, take us away.
First position, Lars Brugman for Team Proline. Second, Daniel Brewer for the Mighty Fourth. Third, Kuba Brzezinski for Team Proline. Fourth, Ruud Heasterbeek for Walk Racing. Scott Beresford, 5th for TSA Racing. 6th, DeWalt Nell for YTF1. 7th, Sven de Vries for Satellite Racing. 8th, Nico Barkley for Scuderia Basilia. 9th, Pedro Gomez for Drake Racing. 10th, Danny Asbury in the second Walk Racing. 11th, Bart de Vos for Satellite Racing. 12th, Reese Gardner for Hins Motorsport. I think the solo Hins Motorsport on the grid. 13th, David Yunt for Scuderia Basilia. 14th, Alexander van der Welde for Small Power Racing. 15th, Roy Schroten for Drag Racing. 16th, Luke Walsh for Simtech Johto Motorsport. Then you have the two high-speed racing cars of Ben Willis and Melo Clont in 17th and 18th. 19th, Borja Garcia for Positive Sim Racing. 20th, Rory Collins for the Mighty Fourth. 21st, Tom Parker for TSA Racing after a 10-place grid penalty. 22nd, Sharon van der Sloot for Simtech Trota Sport. 23rd, Niels Voss, I hope I'm getting that right, for Durex Motorsport. And rounding it out the grid is Sam Jones in 24th for Arrow International.
I think we actually have lost a car somewhere, so that's unfortunate. But we're down to 24. As we've heard from cameraman extraordinaire, very insistent, mentioned that we had, I believe it was Clont, having a bit of a moment on the formation lap. But as we're now getting ready to race, Brugman leads us around turn 12 and 13 to complete our formation lap. He dictates the pace, and we are racing. Away he goes. Great launch out of the final bend, and we are go. Brewer leads, beg your pardon, Brewer follows behind. Oh, big slide from Brewer. He's got that one wrong horribly, and he's off on the grass, losing positions hand over fist. Ruud Heasterbeek up to P2. Here comes Brzezinski having a look for P2. He can't get anything done there. Beresford up to P4. Brugman, though, has got a dream start. He's out of turn 2, and he's got a second gap as he's now run down towards turn 3. Here comes a real shuffle around there as Barkley now looking up the inside there of Nell for YTF1. So Barkley will get that one done, I'm sure, down into turn 4 as he does. A few other movements down the end. We've got for P14 and 13 and 15. A real swap around. We've got Gardner, Schroep and Walsh all involved there. A good clean start on the whole. A few cars involved in dramas, but Brugman has got the perfect start for him. He continues to lead.
Yes, I believe the two people involved in incidents were Menno Clont and Sven de Vries. They're currently 23rd and 24th. I don't see any damage on their cars, so hopefully, this should keep going. But if they've had a spin or two, then their tyres are going to look worse for wear.
Absolutely. So Brugman has completed the first lap of the race. He is leading as he runs through turn 1. Good, consistent, fast sectors there. Fastest second and third sectors of our first opening lap. Heasterbeek follows him for Walk Racing. Good start there for Ruud. Brzezinski is in 3 for Team Proline. Beresford up to P4, and Barkley rounds out the top 5. As we've now got, I think, a move here on Nell from Brewer. So Brewer recovering well. I didn't quite see if Nell had a moment there coming out of turn 2, but clearly Yep, ran a little deep, unfortunately, down through turn 2, compromised all the way through, and Brewer has taken P6 from Nell, as Asbury and Gomez, I think, just traded places there as well down into turn 4. So drivers making the most of that turn 4 overtaking opportunity. Other people to speak of, Tom Parker for TSA, he started down in P22, he's up to P18, so a good opening lap for him, +4 for him. And just keeping an eye on the midfield scrap, we've got a bit of a scrap here developing for P10 between De Vos and Junt. These two getting a little closer together over the course of this lap. And we've got a walk racing car there of Asbury having a bit of a moment going out of 12. And here comes De Vos. He's going to be right on the back of the car as they run through turn 1. Both of them through there, nice and safely. We'll have to see if De Vos is able to do anything down to 2. He's a little far back. Let's see if he can line anything up. Turn 4.
So good start from most people, but Sam Jones in 24th. He's well 36 seconds off the pace. He's just coming around to the start finish now to finish his lap. But so you know, a few troubles for a few people mentioned before, but you know, mostly a good start for everyone else.
Indeed. Speaking of good starts, Brugman's had a good one, but Easterbeek is clearly feeling motivated and feisty. Set fastest lap of the race on the second lap. Critically, he was a tenth of a second quicker than Brugman last time around, so we'll have to see if he's able to carry on chipping away at the lead. Brugman has a 1.5 second advantage over Easterbeek. Yeah, as they complete lap 3, go on to lap 4 of this 45 lap race. And last time around, it was, goodness me, Brugman had a really good lap there. Easterbeek dropping 0.3, predominantly in that last sector. So perhaps just running into that dirty air a little bit. These are Formula cars. There will be a bit of an effect of dirty air, just losing a little bit of downforce through the disturbed air of the car ahead. But Easterbeek continues his pursuit, and he has Brzezinski and Beresford following on as well.
Sorry, Menoclont in 23rd just hit the wall hard and taken off his front wing, and he has retired. So we've got our first retirement 3 laps in. That's a real shame. I mean,
Sam Jones also stationary up at turn 9, which is a tricky place. We'll have to hope that people see him. He's trying to recover. He's stuck in the gravel. Down in P24 is Sam Jones. He's seeing, obviously, that we have the field coming along. He's lost his front wing as well, so I think he's just a bit of a moment there. Very tricky corner there, coming out of turn 8. You're pretty much fully committed and loaded. And he's just run on, hit the wall there, and he's paid the penalty with his front wing. But well driven, well thought out. He's staying well out of the way. So good stuff, Sam. Unlucky there, but very well driven to get back home and dry.
Indeed, and there's a battle for 10th place. Bart de Vos and David Junt. Danny Asbury was part of this battle a lap ago after making a mistake at turn 11. He went off wide and kind of backed off. As I think Pedro's going. Oh, DeWalt Nell's off in 11th place. He's off into the gravel at turn 2, and he's spinning the car around trying to get back on track. And of course, very little traction on the grass, and he's struggling a bit. But he's down to 15th at the moment. He's just rejoined. I don't think anyone else is going to get past him, but he's lost a lot of time because he was in the top. Well, definitely in the top 10, and he's now down in 16th place.
Indeed, so just lock up of that rear axle down into turn 2. A critical corner, both on exit as well as entry, of course. Unfortunately, Nell, just a little mistake there, and that's cost him a whole bunch of time. But plenty of laps available, 40 laps to go, and plenty of time to make some time up. So unlucky. Oh, Gardner.
Reece Gardner, yes, 17th place. Oh, he's now retired. I'm just seeing what happened. He went wide. Oh, he spun it at turn 6 on the exit of it and just went head first into the barrier. I think that's killed the engine. So that's very unfortunate for him. He was again running really well, and now I think two retirements. As Ben Willis now spun down in 21st.
So yes, unfortunate moment there. Has killed the engine and taken out the independent Hinds Motorsport car that we had running this evening. So a couple of retirements in the early going. However, we still do have 22 runners and riders, while Brugman leading them around. Interestingly, Easterbeek on 1 lap gains and then loses. So I do wonder if there is just a little bit of a dirty air effect, perhaps just overworking the tyres a bit. The gap has remained constant though between himself and Brugman at 1.5 seconds. And the gap similarly has remained constant between Easterbeek and Brzezinski for 3rd place around the same point. So Interesting times. Clearly there may be just a nice sweet spot to sit in, not overwork those front tyres, having them wash out wide from the dirty air. And he's clearly, or they're clearly, just managing this car at this point. Obviously, the longer you can go into the race, the better you'll be set up in terms of gaps and available space. So, leading trio, managing their race well. And in fact, the closest battle in our leading 5 is between P4 and P5, Beresford and Nico Barkley. And this pair have Brewer honing onto the back of them as well. A little mistake there from Barkley, down into turn 4, but he's gathered it up well. A little outbreak there, a little lock-up, and that will give Brewer a few more tenths of a second, a couple of car lengths closer to the back of that Scuderia Basilica car, as they now run through Sector 2. And Tom, as a driver, you see a driver make a mistake ahead of you. Of course, it's a little motivating just to hurry up and put them under a little bit more pressure.
It is a bit of a motivation and a bit of, like, seeing someone make a mistake in front of you. But it can also put you off. I've had that several times where someone's made a mistake in front of me and I've almost followed them off because it's just taking my attention away from what I was doing before. And, it can work for you, it can work against you, but hopefully the former.
Indeed so. So, of course, drivers, utmost concentration required. Keeping an eye on any activity. Just saw a little moment, but well held from Pedro Gomez. A little bit of an oversteering moment going through the carousel. Turn 12 on the 8th lap completed there. Or I beg your pardon, 7th lap completed there. So a little moment for him, but he's gathered that one well. He continues to run in P7. Gap around 6 seconds between himself and Brewer in P6. So just keeping an eye. Our closest fight will be before long. Will be for 5th place between Barkley and Brewer. Brewer, new fresh face to the league. He's within a second of the Scuderia Basilica driver now, reeling that Scuderia car in little by little over the lap, and just keeping an eye on the two drivers. Very similar lines being taken, but to me it just looks like Brewer's just carrying a little more momentum through these corners. So of course he'll be using his tyres a little more. We'll have to see if that makes it vulnerable towards the pit stop window. We'll have to wait and see. But as they come across the start-finish line, the gap has come down a little bit more to 0.6 of a second. So Brewer clearly feeling feisty, wanting to regain some positions off that unlucky start.
Yes, I was just about to mention that Brewer's doing really well not to let that early mistake not affect him as much. I mean, he seems to be really on it and hounding the back of Barclay. But if we're heading up to the top again, first two. Lars Brugman's managed to pull out a 2.7 gap, and now Heasterbeek's under attack from Brzezinski.
So Heasterbeek clearly must have had a moment there, because the gap between Brzezinski and Brugman has remained fairly constant. So unfortunate there for the walk driver. But these two now very close together, 0.3 of a second between P2 and P3 as they run through turn 8 and turn 9. Down into Thunder Valley. It was Sven de Vries, by the looks of it, has just retired. Suspension failure. Just following him, out of the final corner. He's got over the curb and he slammed the car into the wall. So unlucky there for Sven, but that is his race run. Another retirement to add to the list, but just now returning to our fight over P2. The gap around, it's extended somewhat as they've run through Sector 3. There's a car off on the side there. Didn't quite catch who that was, as Luke Walsh now has retired with a suspension failure. Goodness me, having quite a spate of cars in this middle phase. Oh, goodness me. I think similar to Sam Jones, just running through the S's, very tricky section of the course. Run out wide onto the grass. There's a wall not too far away, and that's broken his suspension. So another retirement. He now starts to slide down the order.
I think I may have... Niels Voss, also out as well. A lot of people dropping off. I seem to have jinxed everyone now. So, I'm sorry. But... You go ahead.
I was going to say we are on lap 10 of 45, so we're coming up slowly towards 25%, and we did wonder if wear, particularly tyres, may be a factor. And several of these instances have been drivers just understeering wide off, and I have noticed a few times a little bit of tyre smoke coming off the tyre. Good indicator that tyres just had enough, and it's streaming for a bit of a break. Fortunately, that break's come with the car coming to a sudden stop in a wall. So a shame there for a couple of drivers losing their way at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, but we still do have 20 cars. Yes, 20 cars. No, beg your pardon, 19 cars. What Sam Jones has passed effectively the retired cars, running and riding still. So, although a little bit of a rate of attrition here in the early phase, still plenty of cars taking part in round 5 of the GPVWC Atlantic Series.
Indeed. I'm just looking down the order, and in 13th place is Tom Parker, right on the back of Alexander van der Woude. Now, Parker started, I believe you said, 22nd place after his 10-place grid penalty from a few rounds ago. And so he's making a great recovery.
And there was some smoke. That's Van der Sloot off. But let's keep an eye on this fight, because I'm sure there'll be a move between van der Woude and Parker. Parker all over the back of that Smile Power car. He's up the inside. He's on the brakes. He's critically on the rubbered line. And there you go. Move, signed, sealed, and delivered. Parker continuing to swim his way through the field. I don't know why he'd be swimming, but anyway, continues to make his way up very nicely through the field. He's up to P12. That's plus 10 so far this race. Masterclass and overtaking around a course where you can't really overtake. So great stuff from the TSA driver there. Good recovery.
Indeed, indeed. And just looking back up to the top again, Ruud Heestebeek, I think he, over the past few laps, he has gained a second on Lars Brugman, but he's still almost 2 seconds behind as they're coming down to turn 4 now. Brzezinski's still on the back, still within about half a second. Oh, 3/10 now, going into turn 4. I wonder if Brzezinski will try and get closer and closer, and then try and make not a lunge, not a dive, but a manoeuvre somewhere on the circuit. Probably down at turn 4, as you said, is the prime overtaking place.
The little wiggle from Heestebeek as they're running through the S's this time around. And oh, goodness me, running fairly out wide onto the curve. The curve was there to catch Heestebeek there. Led plenty of grip on the outside of the corner there, thankfully. But yes, it seems to me that Brugman is starting to lock up a bit, just riding on board here personally with Brzezinski. Brzezinski is looking pretty well sorted. Car seems to be working well. It's going where he wants it. And interestingly, both Heestebeek and Brzezinski, just riding on board again, seem to be very evenly matched in terms of speed. Of course, with wings, you've got downforce. With that comes drag, which can, of course, impact your top speed. And very evenly matched between the Proline and Walker cars here, scrapping over P3 and P2. And Brugman ahead, just about maintaining the gap at 1.8 seconds. So as they now run down towards turn 4, critically not close enough this time around. I do think it may require a mistake from Heestebeek for Brzezinski to get right on the gearbox. Oh, Brugman! Oh, goodness me, Brugman's had a moment there, down into turn 5, that is. Hopefully we can get a quick replay. As he ran through 4, got that one just about. Oh, the back of the car tried to overtake the front as they go over the rise there for turn 5. Brilliantly held. That's certainly going to do his gap no good at all. The gap down now to 0.6 of a second. So pressure on for the Team Proline driver. He's now got a Heestebeek on his backside. Critically though, he does have a rear gunner in Brzezinski. So will we start to see a little bit of team tactics coming into play to try and secure first and third, or will they try and go a little bit more? We'll have to wait and see. But Heestebeek well and truly on the back of the Team Proline car in the lead. And Scott Beresford is running in P4. He's got a bit of free air between himself and the leading trio. And Nico Barkley is still under pressure from Brewer, but Brewer not able to get past the Scuderia Basilica car quite yet. So battle slowly starting to form. Of course, you see that De Vos and Asbury are fairly close on track as well. So we've got little pairings of drivers, but the top 3 has just been shaken up with that brief moment, that brief mistake there from Brugman.
Now you can take a breath, mate. Brzezinski, I've just been looking at where he's kind of quickest on the track compared to Heestebeek. It's down out of turn 2 down to turn 4. Everywhere else, I think Heestebeek has the upper hand through the corners because Brzezinski's in the. Oh, well, I just saw a car off then. Oh, it was Sam Jones being lapped again down at turn 10. So, but yes, Brzezinski, I think being in the dirty of Heestebeek is starting to.
Sorry to interrupt here, but Nico Barkley was well and truly being hounded by Brewer. Barkley into the pits. First of our pit stoppers this evening. He's in the pits by the looks of it. He's going to be getting a set of tyres, plenty of fuel. I'm sure to get him to the end of the race as well. He's on his way. And critically, he's going to have a nice big gap of air to run into as well. So let's see, will there be an undercut? We'll find out. We'll have to gauge what Brewer does. As he now comes out of the pit lane, he's going to be under pressure from Schroten. Schroten, of course, on the inside here for 2. I think that one's going to be a signed, sealed and delivered move, but let's see what Barkley do on these fresher tyres. Yes, so just heard from Camman Extraordinaire on the cameras. Nice and sharp, of course. Brewer driving for the mighty 4th. Apparently his teammate, I'm just trying to find here in the listing, apparently was in the pits the same lap as well. So here we go. Team tactics. Will we have a mega in-lap here from Brewer? Will he go into the pit lane? He's currently in P5. He's rounding the final corner. No, he doesn't want any of that. He's got some free air he wants to try and exploit. Try and get on the back of the TSA car being driven by Scott Beresford. So we'll have to see as he crosses the start-finish line if he's been able to make any inroads. About even last time around, but let's see what he can do. Now he's been freed up. Brugman and Eastbeek continue to scrap over the lead, and we've got Brzezinski not far behind as well. So it's all starting to shape up. As I believe that's David Yunt for Scuderia Basilica now pitting in as well. So both Scuderia Basilica cars coming in the early phase of the race.
I'm a bit surprised because I would have thought that they'll be pitting around the halfway mark. This looks like it's going to be a two-stop on around lap 30. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they've decided to kind of fuel light and add a little bit of fuel in to kind of keep that sort of balance, or if they've just run out of tyres this quickly. But the top three, Lars Brugman, Heestbeek and Brzezinski, all within 1.2 seconds. And, you know, I wonder what's going to happen, because if Lars decides to pit, then that means that Brzezinski has to kind of hound Heestbeek into a mistake to kind of make Brugman come out comfortably. But if Brzezinski pits, then it might also kind of hint that Brugman might be in the lap later, which would give Heestbeek the advantage. So it'd be interesting to see what the Proline guys do. With Easterbeek in the middle.
Ideally, Easterbeek running a little off the line there. I think, luckily, he's covered just about Brzezinski's line there, so he wasn't able to get the power down and make the most of that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge for the Proline team. They're doing very well indeed. They lead, in fact, the Constructors' Championship right now for the Atlantic Series. Ideally, what you'd like is a little bit of gap between Easterbeek and Brugman. You could perhaps pit Brzezinski in, get perhaps a little bit of an undercut going, and try and basically get yourself ahead of the Warp Racing car. But of course, they're all so close together. If you do that, you might very well put Brzezinski ahead of Brugman once the pit stops filter out, which of course is going to be an interesting situation to manage from a team point of view. So we're going to have to wait and see how the strategy pans out on this one. It is delicately balanced at this phase of the race. We're on lap 17 of 45, about to complete that run on to lap 18, as we've got another retirement. It's unfortunately Sam Jones. He was marching on valiantly, but he has now parked the car. He was P18. He will finish P18 or be classified at P18. We now have 17 runners and riders in this race with 3 cars lapped at this point, those being Willis, Collins and Garcia. Okay, just hearing that Brewer's right on the gearbox of Scott Beresford as they're coming out of turn 2, and let's see the slipstream effect in full force. Here comes Brewer for the mighty fourth. Can he do anything on the TSA driver? He's looking to the inside. Beresford isn't really fighting it. Overspeed on the brakes and move done. There we go. Brewer up to P4, continues the recovery. We'll have to see where Nico Barkley for Scuderia Basilica is, relatively speaking, once Brewer serves his pit stop. But Tom, I do agree with you. I would expect these drivers, if they were just looking at a single stop, to be coming in close to the halfway mark. So perhaps that's just a sign that the tyre wear, bit of a factor on the Scuderia Basilica car.
Sorry, a battle for 9th place. Tom Parker and Nico Barkley. Barkley trying to use those fresher tyres, and Parker's just fending him off. Parker took the inside for turn 4. Barkley couldn't go on the outside, and he's now right on Parker's gearbox. But he's got to find a way past Parker quickly, otherwise he's just putting these new tyres to no use. So I wonder if there's going to be a manoeuvre into the final sector of the track, or if he's going to wait until after turn 1 down to turn 4.
There we've got Garcia off turn 9 in the gravel trap, and he's retired that one. Suspension failure for him there, so we're down to well, it will be 16 once everything has sorted itself out. But yes, let's keep an eye on this fight here for P9 and P10. Parker really having to defend hard. Barkley giving a little look there, little look up on the inside just to unsettle Parker. Having none of that though, through turn 10, Parker covers the inside, just covering the line nicely, and it's a late move from Barkley. Can he use the grip of those tyres? Yes, he can. Space left. Nice racing room given, and he's up the inside. He's got that move done critically. Barkley immediately going over to the other line, and as he now jinks his way through turn 3, let's see, can Parker come back at him? I expect it'll be quite a move if he can do it, but no, he thinks better of that one, and I think in the grand scheme of things, that's perhaps a wise move. You can fight all you like and have a jolly good race, but it's going to slow you down. Roy Schroep is not far behind, so he could buy into this one. So, a little bit of tyre smoke there from Barkley, as he was just getting himself out of turn 6 there, but there we go. I think a good move done there by Barkley. Lovely late on the brakes. Nicely slipped up the inside there. Good respect given. And let's see what Barkley can do.
I think it was a good manoeuvre from Parker to, well, not let Barkley through, but not fight him too hard, because they are on different strategies. I mean, Parker would like to kind of hold Barclay up a bit, but it might actually penalise Parker's race a bit too much, so letting him go is probably the better choice.
Indeed so, as we've got... oh, I think that was a mistake there from Nell. Just keeping an eye on what happened there, just saw his position switch. Oh, goodness me. Oh, yes, contact, in fact. Nell running very wide. He's in P14 at this point now. Running very wide through turn 12, getting it all sideways, and contact between himself and David Yunt. Kept it going, though, critically. So, unfortunately, Nell, who had that mistake earlier on down into turn 2, he continues to run in P14, but he's losing a few positions there through mistakes, so not ideal. Returning to our leading trio, they continue to be separated by only 1.2 seconds. Plenty of pressure being applied to our leader. He is building up ever so slowly now, and gap up to 1.8 seconds. Oh, man, as I say that, Brugman a mistake. He's to make a mistake, and here we go. Here comes the momentum train as they now run down towards turn 3. Brugman's really going to have to pull out an amazing defence here. He's got his teammate well up beside him. Can they fly formation? He's to be goes around the outside. Can he hold it? Just about. He now runs through turns 5. Here we go. Here comes the left-right action. Oh, Brugman, a little mistake. And goodness me, I take a moment to take a breath just to make sure that I check myself, because Heasterbeek has got that one done. My word, I think Brugman just didn't have quite enough traction there on the exit of turn 5. Heasterbeek, beautiful move into the lead of the race. And I think good team driving there. No point lunging in there. That would have been a bit of a drama for Team Proline.
As Brugman pits, he's decided to come in.
Right, here we go. Let's see, is the undercut a factor? We've got Brzezinski to hand the back of Heasterbeek, and what can Brugman do? So it's about a 20-second or so stop. There is a lovely area of free air, actually. If he can get this timed properly, he would come out behind Danny Asbury. As he's now on his way, we've got Pedro Gomez in the pit lane as well. He's now just filtering in. And here comes Brugman, and he is indeed filtering into the space. If he can get round turn 1, nice and quickly, which he does, he is now out in P6, and he's got a lovely gap, around 3 or so seconds between himself and Bart de Vos in 5th. That's plenty of space to start putting in some quick laps. We're going to have to keep an eye on what Heasterbeek does. As, oh goodness me, the gap between Brzezinski and Heasterbeek, that's up at 3 seconds. So what happened there then? We'll have to see what happens. But here we go, strategy and undercut time. Let's see who's got the call right.
Yes, I think the gap between Brzezinski and Heasterbeek happened when Brzezinski was trying to overtake Brugman after Heasterbeek got past, and they just they started tripping over each other. So you know, a bit of teams as Heasterbeek comes into the pits to try and counter Brugman.
Here he comes. Let's see what that lap of fresh tyre. Oh, as we hear, he's missed his pit box. Goodness, that's not the way to go about things. He's got himself sorted out now, though, and on he goes. Brewer in the pits as well for the mighty 4th. But let's see. Here comes Heasterbeek. He's rolling out. Where is Brugman?
Turn 1. He's coming into turn 1. He's around turn 1, and he's managed to do the undercut on Heasterbeek. I don't know if that was the actual undercut working, or just Heasterbeek missing his pit box and having to reverse slightly.
I think it would have been close either way, but there you go. 1 lap of fresher tyre. Brugman's been able to retake the lead, and I fear, given that Brzezinski is going to be the loser of this trio, who was up and running up in P2 after all that, and he's, I think, going to lose a few... well, he's certainly going to lose his lead once he pits, as the other two now on fresher tyres are starting to make those tyres work and give themselves some lap times. Another retirement, unfortunately, to World Nell. YTF1 has retired, didn't quite catch why, so that takes us down to 15 runners and riders. We are on lap 23 of 45 as Brzezinski now pits from the lead of the race. That will give the lead of the race. No, it won't, because Scott Beresford also pits for TSA Racing.
Does Bart de Vos.
So is Bart de Vos.
No,
so,
Bart de Vos will inherit the lead.
So Brzezinski missing his box. Goodness me, drivers missing their marks, which is going to critically give away lap time. He's still stationary, and our leaders have gone through comfortably. So we have the Vos leading.
I think Beresford has jumped Brzezinski. It's very close coming out the pits. Yeah.
Oh, Beresford, that is a move for position. So the TSA driver in the pits. Good work from the TSA pit crew there. Brzezinski critically missing his marks, and that is P3 for the TSA driver. So converting that Super 6 result so far in a superb manner. So Brzezinski now has some work to do, and he's looking feisty straight out the gate. Good exit from turn 2. He's running down, and he's already up the inside for turn 3. Beresford not fighting this one. I think he's just wanting to get his car up to pressure, up to temperature. as they now run through turn 4, and that is a move done from Brzezinski, so immediate reaction to that swap round in the pit stops. Bart de Vos was leading. He's been passed by Brugman. Heasterbeek is now on the back of Bart de Vos. He is driving, doesn't have a livery. He is driving for Satellite Racing, and he's running wide. That's because he's going into the pits, so he's clearly going for a fresh set of boots as well. So Heasterbeek back into second place. That traffic, though, has worked well for Brugman. He's got the gap up to 1.3 seconds after that pit stop phase. So we wondered if the undercut would be a factor, and seemingly so.
But De Vos has also missed his pit box, I think.
Yep,
yes, he's had to reverse back and realign himself, and that's going to cost him a heap of time. But Daniel Brewer in third place after his mistake at turn 1 on the first lap is now in third place.
Indeed, the undercut no, beg your pardon, has he pitted? Let me have a look.
He has
here.
pitted,
He
yes.
has. So yes, he's been quietly getting on with it, quietly recovering, making moves work, and he's got himself up to P3, and he's got a 4-second gap to Brzezinski, who of course we were just seeing out lead the race, the last of the leading trio before that pit stop phase. So Brewer moving his way up nicely, and he's got lots of clean air between himself and Heasterbeek. Gap between Heasterbeek and Brugman, 1.1 seconds, and coming down rapidly, actually. That was 1.6 seconds as they crossed the second intermediate line on this lap. So clearly Heasterbeek feeling feisty on these new set of tyres. It's a pressure adjustment made on the pit stop, and the balance is coming back towards the Walk Racing driver as they run through turn 1. The gap, 1.3 seconds, so a little bit of variance there across the lap. So we'll keep an eye on the gaps. But Brewer has a 4-second clear air window to run into. Let's see what it can do.
Definitely, and he's also got over 3 seconds back to Brzezinski, who's, I think, just about a second ahead of Scott Beresford in 5th. So there could be a battle later on between those two if Brzezinski slowly starts dropping off. But Nico Barkley in 6th place, 2 seconds behind Scott Beresford, and I think he's also pulling Pedro Gomez. So there could be a 3-way scrap for 5th in the next coming laps.
How delicious. So all shaping up on this, approaching the halfway point. In fact, we passed the halfway point. So all shaping up very tastily indeed. Fastest lap of the race was done last time around by Brzezinski, so clearly he's feeling motivated. Now he's got himself some clear area, having passed Beresford. Brewer, though, just moments before set the fastest lap of the race. The lap time, 1 minute 4.6. The lap time for Brzezinski, 1 minute 4.6. Critically, though, 3,000ths quicker. So very, very evenly matched lap times there. Very evenly matched drivers, Brewer and Brzezinski at this phase. And, well, they've got some clear air to work with. Meanwhile, our leading two are in hot pursuit of one another. So, is that Barkley? Barkley, I think. Oh, yes, Barkley make a mistake. Gomez up to P6. Just keeping an eye on what the Scuderia Basilica driver was doing. He was in the pits, one of our first pitters, and yes, indeed, load of understeer, run wide onto the grass, and that gave Pedro Gomez P6. So, a mistake there from the Scuderia Basilica driver. So, critical mistake there for Barkley. He's got some work to do now to get ahead of the, I believe that's the Drake racing car here of Pedro Gomez. So good stuff there for Pedro, up to P6. Good solid race, just keeping an eye on other drivers. We're down to 15 now. Rory Collins and Ben Willis have both been lapped, but we have 13 cars on the lead lap at this point. Nico Barkley without a time, that's because he ran wide. Otherwise, movers and shakers, well, we mentioned him a few times earlier. We'll mention him again. Tom Parker from 22nd, he's up to 11th, so he's plus 11 at this point. Continuing to make his way through the field. His next target is 4 seconds up the road. That is Bart de Vos, having made a pit stop. So we'll see if he's able to make any more inroads, as we are over the halfway point now of this, the 5th round of the Atlantic Series. So the question I think now will be, Tom, Scuderia Basilica, we saw them pit very early. Will they be pitting in about 3 laps' time?
Well, I would say they'd probably go about 4, see if everyone else kind of pits early, or maybe they've fueled up for the end of the race, and just did a quick tyre change then. I don't really know. I'd love to see what their strategy is, but you know, if they manage to make this work and they decide to stay out, then you know they could gain some good points from this, or if they decide to pit in the next few laps, then it could also be disastrous. So we'll have to wait and see.
Indeed, the strategy call, of course, only the teams will know their individual strategies. We'll only have to wait and see how they all pan out together on the same piece of tarmac. It's certainly proving an interesting issue or interesting situation to call at this point, at least from my seat. So we will have to wait and see if the strategies work, if perhaps pitting a little earlier, getting a little bit of free air to run into. In the long run, will gain them some time. So we will wait and see on that one. Our leader continues to be Lars Brugman. The gap, 1 second at this point between himself and Heasterbeek. So Heasterbeek, clearly, I want to say he's a little bit quicker in the second sector with all the twisty stuff. But Brugman clearly got the car working well in the high speed. The pair of them making their way past Willis. So he's been put 3 laps down at this point. And they are right together. The gap down to half a second because of the lap traffic. I'd say if that stays at the same rate as Brugman there, I think a little lock-up, almost quite a fairly large lock-up down into turn 12.
The gap is now half a second between Ruud Heasterbeek and Lars Brugman, with
Yes.
Daniel Brewer now only 4 seconds behind. He is closing in.
He is. He has the opportunity. He has the clear air. Of course, he also has the advantage now of back markers, seeing the leaders coming through, knowing to get out the way. So he is motoring along beautifully, the mighty fourth, pulling lap time hand over fist between Brugman and Heasterbeek. So we may have a 3-way fight for the podium positions before too long. Let's not forget Brzezinski either. He is not too far away and he's putting in some solid lap times as well. And Beresford, interestingly, has not dropped off the back of him either. So we've got a real close fight here for the top 5, only separated by 10 seconds after the stop. So with 15 laps to go, plenty of opportunity to wheel in your rival and contemplate a move or two towards the end of the race. So plenty of action to be seen as keeping an eye on the
De Vos and Asbury. De Vos right behind Danny Asbury going into turn 4. Jinked out to make a little bit of a look, but wasn't far enough alongside and decided to back out. But they're right behind each other. I mean, 2-3 tenths behind. I think De Vos might have the upper hand here on Asbury, seeing I think he has fresher tyres. But
we'll keep an eye on it. Critically, if these two start to scrap...
Oh, Barclay in.
Oh, yes, Nico Barclay in for Scuderia Basilica. So I forget how many laps it was, but it wasn't too many. So clearly they're going for the 2-stop strategy. Light on the fuel, fresh tyres. Let's see what he can do. So he is going to leave the pit lane, I want to say around P10 or 11. I think that's Tom Parker for TS8 just getting ahead, so he's actually left P11.
Oh, but De Vos off.
De Vos! De Vos off. What happened there? He's lost his rear and front wing. Fighting with Asbury. Oh, critically. Oh, he's run wide onto the curb and the car has snapped in a big way. So unlucky there for the satellite driver. He's lost all of his aerodynamic elements of his wagon.
He's now retired.
Yeah, and unfortunately he can't get that car home. So that's our... How many retirements is that now?
8, 9?
8th or 9th retirement. Unfortunate for De Vos there, fighting really well there with Asbury. And that net gives everyone an extra place. So Barclay, who was 11th, now 10th. Stroke, who was 12th, he's now up to 11th, so on and so forth. So there we go. Hey, that's all it takes with these cars, of course. They're so very, very fragile. One slight lapse of concentration. We've seen it a few times from a few drivers this evening, and it costs serious positions and, well, in this case, the car's ability to race. So very unlucky there for De Vos. As we are now down to, as it will all shake out, 14 runners and riders left with 14 laps to go.
Yeah, I think I definitely jinxed it earlier on, saying that, hoping there's not too many retirements. But Lars Brugman, 7/10 gap back to Ruud Heasterbeek as they've just gone past traffic. And 2.8 seconds back to Daniel Brewer. So Brewer, in the next few laps, he could be right on the back, looking for his first race win, I'd say.
We also have to keep an eye with the pit stop done by Barclay. He's on very fresh tyres and he's fighting Tom Parker again. So this pair, they're fighting over P9 and P10. They're running through the S's at this point, turn 6, 7, 8, and now they're running down into turn 9. And Barclay right on the back. Oh, Barclay on the curb. Oh, goodness me, he's held on to that one just about. But there you go. These cars, of course, running so low to the ground. You get beached on those curbs, you're in trouble. And he gathered that one up well. What was it?
Wide.
A pretty risky situation. He's run wide as well. Good spot down into 12. So Parker, a little bit of space given. gap 1.6 seconds between the two as they cross the start-finish line. So that'll certainly be what Parker wants to see, and Barkley, well, he's going to have to use those tyres a bit to catch up. But as they're running down towards turn 2, that gap visibly getting smaller. So clearly using those tyres well. So we'll keep an eye on that gap. That was a very close one a few moments ago.
Ruud Heespeak now right on the back of Lars Bergman for first place.
Indeed. Couple car lengths now between these two. They cross the start-finish line down towards turn 1. Let's see, is there anything on down into turn 2 perhaps? Well, they run through turn 1 very nicely. Also just noticing the very menacing figure of Daniel Brewer gaining on this pair. Ooh, Heespeak, he had a little look, a little lock-up, but he's got the car stopped quickly for turn 2 and a good exit as well. I want to say about even between the two. Just looking at the gap between them, evenly geared, even top speed between the two. They're running towards turn 4, 180 miles an hour, down on the brakes. A little bit of tyre smoke from both of them, pushing these cars right to the limit, over the brow of turn 5, sweeping through turn 6, into turn 7, and these two very evenly matched. The gap is interesting, it really is fluctuating, but Heespeak has been able to reel it in through this middle sector consistently. So very well set up. I keep saying tasty, perhaps I'm just hungry, but but very well set up indeed for the final phase of the race.
David Junt, the other Scuderia Basilia car, has just come out the pits whilst all that was happening, and came out just behind Roy Schroeton, and in between just behind Roy Schroeton. I thought it was another car battling behind, but it's Ben Willis, who is currently 3 laps down. So Schroeton on those, Junt on those newer tyres could be looking for a quick pass round Schroeton, and Schroeton locks up going into turn 4.
Indeed, just keeping on Heespeak, the gap hovering around the half-second mark. Heespeak just trying a few different lines now, I think, just to try and unsettle Brugman. Keep an eye on his mirrors, perhaps make the mistake. Heespeak though, oh goodness me, a little heavy on the brakes there, and just ran a little wide. While these two continue to hound one another, Brewer continues to put in the stunningly quick laps, and he has got the gap down now to 2 seconds, so he continues to chip away at the advantage that these two have at the head of the field. Just keeping an eye on the scraps.
Nico Barkley got past Tom Parker down at around the outside of turn 4, inside for turn 5.
Lovely stuff. I was just about to say, just returning to that little scrap. Of course, Barkley having that moment early on, well recovered. He's got himself up to P8 with the fresher tyres. And his next target is just up the road. It's Danny Asbury from Walk Racing gap between those two. 1.4 seconds, but visibly those fresh tyres really working for Barkley here. Particularly in the very technical and very tyre-dependent Sector 2 here at Mid-Ohio.
Looking for a manoeuvre around Schroeton. He's round the outside turn 4, inside for turn 5, just like Barclay, just like his teammate. And are they teammates? I can't remember.
Yes, indeed, both Scuderia Basilica.
Sorry, their cars do look different. That's why. But yes, just like his teammate and manoeuvre done. I wonder if Schroeton can come back at him. But John, on those fresher tyres, you should just start to pull away now.
Indeed, and also just noticed, and I didn't even realise that R Factor 2 did this. If you look at the front axle of Jon's car, he's actually got blistering on the inside tyre wall. That is amazing. I am amazed at this. So clearly the Scuderia Basilica cars quite hard on that front right. Of course, the tyre loaded heavily, for example, through turn 1 here, and you can visibly see that on the tyre. Amazing stuff. So you can see just wearing out that inside tyre wall. Just a little bit too much camber in use, perhaps. And big lock up for Jon there, down into 2. But there we go. Even visibly showing you your tyre wear as well as you can feel it through the wheel. So good stuff. Just keeping an eye on the lead of the race. Brewer is practically with our leading pair, being Heespeak and Brugman. The gap between Brugman and Heespeak, 0.7 of a second. The gap between Brewer and Heespeak now just a second. So right with the leading duo. Let's see what Brewer can do. We're coming towards the final, 9 laps of the race. So plenty of time to make something happen. He's done a great stint here on the fresh tyres. Really being able to reel in these cars, having had that moment right at the start of the race. So great recovery. Let's see what he can do.
Question. Has Lars been purposely kind of slow and save his tyres because he knows that there's going to be a battle later on in the race? Or has just Brewer just got just the speed and the talent to catch up and just not take out much of the tyre? I mean, it's going to be interesting in the next 8 laps, the final 8 laps. Just seeing who's going to, profit from all this. There's Ben Willis on the outside there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who's got the tyres.
No, Ben Willis, oh goodness me, contact between himself and Brewer's round and facing the wrong way at turn 2. Goodness me, keep an eye on that. So we'll put a rain check on that. Oh goodness me. Yeah, just I think a miscommunication. Brewer turning into the corner, Willis just being there, and that has taken Brewer right out of it. He's recovering now from that moment. Goodness me, he's now dropped down to P5 and is at least 10 seconds behind the leading trio. Brzezinski up to P3 because of that, and that's going to have given a big respite to Heasterbeek and Brugman. Oh goodness me, just as things were starting to get delicious, I continue to go back to the food metaphors, but just as things were starting to salivate, unfortunately the cook spoiled the broth. But anyway, unfortunate moment there, and I think Brewer hard done by there. Very unfortunate, a valiant fight. He's still in the top 5 though, and that'll be a good result given the drive he's had to put in. Obviously not as sweet as a podium position.
That is totally upsetting, because we were looking for a good battle between Brewer, Heasterbeek and Brugman, and now it's just Heasterbeek and Brugman, and it's been like that for the past, well, I'd like to say the entire race. So Heasterbeek seems to be fast in some sections, but Brugman seems to be faster over the rest of the lap, and that's what seems to be counting towards Brugman. So he just seems to be faster in the key parts, which is meaning that Heasterbeek can't actually make a manoeuvre.
Indeed, you always sort of hear in the setup guide 101, you want to set up the car for the most important corner on the course, and clearly he's got that top speed to defend running down towards turn 4. Clearly got the car working well out of turn 2, and I think that is just denying Heasterbeek the ability to slipstream onto the back of that Team Proline car, and he's really going to have to work hard to try and engineer his way past the Team Proline driver. So Heasterbeek with a lot of work to do. He's got plenty of time though. He's still got 7 laps to do something, so 7 or so minutes, and we will find out who has got this one absolutely spot on to win the race. We will of course be very, very attentive to our leading duo, as Brzezinski now in 3rd place. He's 4 seconds behind the leader, so 3 seconds behind 2nd place. Beresford continues to run in P4, and following that really unfortunate moment, Brewer is in P5. So still close battles to be had within the top 5. Just keeping an eye on other fights, we've got perhaps developing. Tom Parker is slowly catching the back of Danny Asbury, interestingly enough. So Asbury passed by Nico Barkley on those fresher tyres, so making those tyres work. Parker, a really good drive up from the back of the field, and now he will have, before too long, a Walk Racing car in his sights, I'm sure.
I think Danny Asbury actually got past Parker, because Asbury's now pulled the gap out to a 2nd. So Parker obviously thinking about his own race. He's on the more worn tyres than Asbury and his teammate Barclay. So I think Parker, he might be able to catch up if Asbury starts making mistakes, but I think Asbury's just got the upper hand here with the fresher tyres.
Indeed, just having a quick look, since I now know that there is blistering on the side walls of the tyres. Yes, indeed, Tom Parker got a bit of blistering on that tyre, and while Asbury does have some, nowhere near as much, I would say. Goodness me, did not even realise that was a factor until this evening's race. There we go, we can bring you some tyre grip updates, if you will. And it's interesting, having said that, just keeping an eye on Brugman and Heasterbeek. You look, there's a little bit of wear, but nowhere near as much as some of the drivers. So clearly getting those front tyres working well, of course, very critical on this course. Plenty of undulation, plenty of twisting, turning, and loading corners, and well, they've got the tyres working well, and they are really profiting from that. The gap between our leading two remains 7/10 of a second. We've got 5 laps to go, including the one they are on, and interesting, Brzezinski is starting to reel them in ever so slightly. I don't think he'll have enough time to do anything with that.
Yeah, I've just been watching that, because the last couple of laps he was down at 5 seconds back. Now it's 3.1. So he's gaining a bit every sector. I just wonder if he can just start gaining bigger chunks over the next few laps. Oh, 2.7. So he's getting a whole 4/10 in the final sector. This, Brzezinski could have replaced Brewer in this 3-way fight for first.
He could have done. Just an update on Brewer. He remains in E5. The last time around, he was a good chunk quicker than Beresford ahead, a whole second quicker. So there we go. So he is clearly feeling the hustle on, wanting to recover yet again. Perhaps he might get an opportunity to snag P4 if he is lucky. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But as we are, lap 42 of 45, Brugman continues to lead. The gap down to 0.4 of a second between him and Brugman, but Brugman is just not close enough. And just keeping an eye. Yep, Brzezinski definitely visibly gaining lap by lap. He may put himself into contention. He has enough time, actually. I take it back. So we may have a dice for the podium positions before too long. Little lock-up there for Easterbeek, taken in wide, but he's got that one nicely into the apex.
I'm just looking down at 8th and 9th, Danny Asbury and Tom Parker. You were right, Parker is catching. He's just over half a second behind Asbury, and I think he might be in the tow for turn 4, but you know, he seems to be catching Asbury. I think Asbury's taken a bit too much out of the tyres early on, and now suffering with that, and Parker could be in a position to pounce.
Indeed, he's Asbury there, just going through turn 5. Of course, that's all about mechanical grip, nowhere near enough speed to really be generating a large amount of downforce, and yet car moving around an awful lot under him, so a real handful. He's driving incredibly well to keep that one under check. But yes, Parker gaining little by little. They now run down towards 12. A little bit of tyre left down there by Parker. A little bit of a lock-up, but he was able to manage that nicely, modulate it. Oh, goodness me, as I start to say things, he then gets a little bit leery out of the final corner. We don't want any more retirements this evening, thank you very much. As he now runs through turn 1. Oh, I think that was a little mistake there as well, so I'm going to stop saying things.
Let's focus on Easterbeek and Brugman. 4/10 spot. Oh, Easterbeek right on the back of Lars Brugman. He just made a mistake at turn 12, the carousel, and that's put him a second back, but now probably into the clutches of Brzezinski.
Indeed, that is definitely not what you want to be doing towards the closing phases of the races. Brzezinski is closing. He's got about a second to make up now on Easterbeek. It's about the same gap. Brugman, that's just the respite he may need just to start, stop focusing on his rear view, start working on putting in those nice, quick, clean, consistent laps, and that will secure him the win. Fastest lap of the race was done a few moments ago by third place man Brzezinski, so clearly now he's seen the opportunity to get up on the second step of the podium. He's clearly been a little more motivated to hustle that car a bit. That saved a bit of tyres, a bit of fuel for such a possibility, so he's certainly going to be on the back of Easterbeek. We only have 2 more laps to go though after this one is completed. We have a little bit of traffic ahead, so that may play a factor, but we are certainly getting towards the end of this one, and if anyone wants to make a move, they need to make it now.
And saying that, Daniel Brewer is now on the back of Scott Beresford for 4th and 5th. Beresford, it seems like he's starting to struggle on those tyres. I would have thought Brewer would have been worse on the tyre wear since he had that spin off into the gravel. But he's making it work. He's catching up, and he's 6/10 back. So this lap he could be in a position to make the overtake, especially if Beresford is leaning on that right hand side of his car through turn 1, and that just allows Brewer to catch up even more.
Speaking, so we've just been told it's last lap, so we can't count. So thank you to cameraman extraordinaire for keeping us in check as Easterbeek down into turn 4. He was had a good run through turn 2, but he's not been able to convert it. And going through turn 5, horrible corner, really slow, all about mechanical grip. Just a little bit loose. That's not able to really gain as Brugman runs through turn 9. Easterbeek really pushing. He's made a mistake,
Brzezinski.
and here comes Brzezinski. He's up the inside for the right hander, but here comes the left. He's going to have to be brave. He's outbraked. Will he get it on the road? Does just keep it on the tarmac, but he very nearly had second place there. Here comes Easterbeek. He covers the line. Brugman brilliantly wins here for a brilliant Team Proline result, P1 and P3 himself, Brzezinski. Easterbeek, great point score for himself, and Walk Racing, our leading trio, has come home. Beresford for TSA holds on to 4th place. Brewer has come home in P5, incredibly unlucky to be taken out in such a cruel manner. Gomez is going to come home in P6 for Drake. Here comes Barkley. He is running through turn 9. He will be, as long as some horrible fate does not befall him, our P7 sitter on the second or the 2-stop strategy, working well for him in this race. Gained a few positions, that is for sure. He now exits the final corner and comes over the start-finish line to come home P7. Danny Asbury for Walk comes home in P8. Tom Parker from 22nd. Great race on around this course where they say you can't overtake. He's got up himself to P9. And our final finisher inside the top 10 will be David Yunt for Scuderia Basilica. Rounding out the finishes will be Roy Shurton in 11th, Alexander van der Woud in P12, Rory Collins in P13, and Ben Willis, our final finisher, in P14. Oh, blimey. So, I'll be honest, I was looking forward to this race because personally I rather enjoy the track. I think it provides an interesting challenge. I did wonder if strategy would be a factor. And goodness gracious me, it really was. Some great racing, a few moments which I think may need to be looked at a little later on, but a race of real precision required there, and Brugman yet again, under pressure, has brought the car home in P1.
It was a great drive from Brubman. He was under pressure from Heasterbeek and Brzezinski, even Brewer probably at times, but he kept his cool. He didn't make many mistakes. He had that bit of a twitch at turn 5, but he kept it together, and he's led from pretty much start to finish. I mean, he didn't have a sizable gap, but it was enough to kind of keep Heasterbeek at bay. And congratulations to the top 3 for such a great race and great result for all of them.
Indeed, all pushing very hard to the very end. I think if I have to call out a driver of the day, I think Daniel Brewer deserves that. Goodness me, to have so many little dramas throughout the race, to come home P5 and drive such a sterling race. Goodness me, good result from him there. Fighting to the very end, and P5, a very, very good result to bring him home. So just waiting, everyone just sorting themselves out and cooling off. I'm sure after what would have been a very busy 40 or 51 minutes of racing, we'll hopefully have some driver interviews for you. We're just waiting to see if anyone from the top 3 will join us. And we certainly already have a driver, that being Tom Parker. I'm sure he will want to wax lyrical about what a good drive he's had. I would not disagree with him there. So I'll just give everyone a few moments to sort themselves out, and we'll hopefully have some good interviews for you. Tom, any particular moments in that race that caught your eye? Any highlights?
Well, it was the instant between Brewer and Willis that caught my eye. So I looked it back, and by the looks of it, Willis just locked up going down into turn 2, and he had nowhere to go since Brewer was turning in, which is really unfortunate for Brewer, since he was right on the back of Heasterbeek, and it could have been a really interesting final couple of laps.
Indeed so, and I'm pleased to say that joining us from P2 after a very, very intense race is Ruud Heasterbeek for Walk Racing. Congratulations, Ruud. That looked like hard work, and by the looks of it, if it wasn't for, unfortunately, a little bit of a moment with a back mark, you might have been under pressure there right to the very end.
Yes, it was a hard race, as you say. It was a fun race. I really enjoyed it. Four of us were really on the pace. Yeah, I was hoping my race pace was good, and then when I got into second after the first corner, I was keeping the gap to Lars, and that went well. And then at the end of the first stint, I could take the lead. So it was very close, but in pit stop I overshot it a little, and I think I lost like second, 1.5 seconds there. So that was I could have maybe won it if I didn't do that. But it was a very tough race. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Good stuff, and I'm pleased to say also joining us our race winner this evening, Lars Brugman. Lars, congratulations. Just saying to Ruud, a very, very tough race, and one I think that you certainly didn't have it easy. You were having to fight right to the very end.
Yeah, it was really very, very difficult to keep Ruud behind, because I think he was a bit quicker over the race distance. So, but it was he put on a lot of pressure onto me. So it was a very tough race.
And it was very well dealt with. It was interesting. Myself and Tom were sort of calling out during the race. It seemed that Lars, you were much better in the sort of higher speed sections of the course, and Ruud, you were just amazing through the twisty stuff. I mean, Lars, was that a focus of yours looking at the race? Were you sort of looking at the overtaking opportunities and where to make the most of them?
No, not really. It was just how the setup turned out, that we were quite quick through the fast corners, but not so great through the slow stuff. So I have to look at that. But.
Fair enough. And my final question to the both of you will be, of course, our next round will be at Charlotte Motor Speedway, another oval, a different challenge there again, part of the unique aspect of the Atlantic Series. Obviously, we've had a run on the oval around Indianapolis. What kind of prospect does that bring in terms of obviously setting the car up? Of course, oval racing, very different beast to driving around a circuit. So, Lars, why don't we go first?
Well, the setting up is quite difficult, I find, for ovals, because we're not really used to it. Don't have a lot of experience with setting up for ovals, so I find it quite hard to make a good setup for ovals. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But
Fair enough.
they're
And
also
Oh, beg your
oh
pardon,
sorry
please.
no, they're also quite a difficult challenge because you're so close with each other. It's it's easy to crash with each other.
And Rude, of course, ovals, as Lars was just mentioning, a very different challenge. You find yourself, and obviously walk racing as well, very strong position in second place. Ovals perhaps an opportunity to perhaps gain on Lars then.
Well, yeah, an opportunity maybe if you saw the last race. It didn't really work out for me. I think it's a bit of a lottery, ovals. I mean, last race we had a lot of retirements, so maybe luck will be on our side, if anything. And yeah, in terms of setup, as your first question was, I think it's indeed quite difficult because we're not really used to it, and you can't really like base a setup on a couple of corners that you want to take well. It's just turning left and looking at the clock. It's really hard. I found it really hard the previous time. We'll see what the next race brings.
Very well. Well, thank you very much, Lars and Rude, for joining us. Congratulations again on what was a very intense race, I'm sure, to drive, and well, it was very enjoyable from where I sat. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. No problem.
And finally joining us, our third interviewee of the evening, is Mr. Thomas Parker. After quite a drive from 22nd up to 9th, I think it was. Tom, great drive on track where overtaking and more of a track position is king.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Really good. Yeah, it was fun. Very fun, must admit.
Good stuff, good stuff. And well, as I asked Lars and Rude about ovals, what are your feelings about ovals? Obviously not the usual fare here of the GPVWC.
I quite like it. I mean, I know I chose the wrong engine at Indy, but I feel was quite competitive there. And ever since I've started sim racing, I've been quite decent at ovals, I'd like to think. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I know the Honda's not as strong there, but it's different to Indy. It's not as long. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get a good set of results. I mean, I think today was probably TSA's best result of the year. So we'll see what we can do for the team. Rise above it and all that.
Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. So with that, I'd like to thank all the drivers for joining us for interviews. Lovely to hear your thoughts as always. And if any of what you've seen this evening tickles your fancy, you want to get involved, well, head on over to gpvwc.com. Plenty of series on R Factor, R Factor 2 to enjoy, and plenty of racing still to come this week from the league. Tomorrow we have the next round of the World Sports Series, our take on the Porsche Carrera Cup. That coming from Spa-Francorchamps. We saw some great racing last week in the career ladder. That'll be on same place, same time. And rounding out the week's racing will be World GT on Thursday. That'll be coming from Brno in the Czech Republic. 1 hour racing in GT cars. So plenty to watch, plenty to participate in if you so wish as well. And after a evening of great racing, Tom, I think all in all, it set ourselves up very nicely for the run-in for the first Atlantic Series.
Definitely. With Lars Brugman now extending his championship by, I think it's 10 points, so that's now up to 35. I did some thinking when I was looking at the points that I think Lars can now finish second to Heasterbeek for the final 2 races. Ooh. So Lars has a bit to his advantage and a bit to play with. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Indeed so. And well, of course, our silent partner throughout the race, although he was nattering away and calling out very good bits of information during the race, was our cameraman, Mr. Cam's, Cameron Brewster. There we go. Get the name out right. Cam, that looked like a good race to us. How did it look to you on the cameras?
There's another brilliant race. Fairly good driving from everyone. I mean, obviously there was the odd kind of incident here and there, but no, brilliant to watch. And great spot on the blistering as well on the tyres. Not that I can see it, so I'll have to go back and watch the broadcast again. But no, as you all know, I'm the boss of TSA, and I've got quite a big grin on my face at the moment. So no, thanks ever so much to Scott and to Parker, who has had a second bite of the cherry at Atlantic Series after his mishap at Indy. But no, brilliant job from those guys.
There you go, team perspective as well, wonderful stuff. So with that, I'd like to thank, of course, all the drivers, all the administration as well, but of course also Cam and Tom for joining me in the commentary and the cameras this evening. I hope very much that you enjoyed the spectacle which was round 5, the GPVWC Atlantic Series. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time for the Grand Prix of the Carolinas from Charlotte Motor Speedway. I've been Matthew Chuggy Chogan. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time out on the racetrack.